If your brother's best friend tried to put the moves on you, should you tell him afterwards? We'll get into that story in just a bit. But first, I found out the guy I've been seeing has a fiancé for the last 9 months. There's not much to say, as the title says all. This guy told me he wanted to be with me, that he wanted to have a family with me, and expressed his feelings toward me. It was the first person I could see myself having a kid with. For God's sake, I helped pick out what house he was working so hard to buy, which he always talked about our future and us living there. He tried to talk me out from moving over 6,000 miles for my career. Everyone is asleep, so I have no one to really voice this to. I'm sorry that it's you all. I never thought someone would put this much effort for nothing. Thank you for letting me vent. This is something that never feels good to find out, so my heart goes out to you. However, if you have an offer in your career to move 6,000 miles, you should still go ahead and do it. And now that the truth is out there, you can cut ties with this guy and then go ahead and do your thing and be your best self. Doxy Doter commented, I hope you're still moving 6,000 miles for your career. He doesn't deserve you. At least you dodged the bullet before it got worse. Tufted Doodle replied, actually, currently, I'm not. During the hiring freeze, the job I accepted in October before I finished my master's was rescinded. So now I'm back home applying to jobs. This was really the cherry on top. Also, hi, my name is Brendan, and if you guys enjoy these true off my chest videos, it would be so nice if you liked the video and commented down below if you're listening to our podcast. That being said, our next story is, I anonymously told my sister-in-law her boyfriend cheated. Have I done the wrong thing? Help, Reddit, I'm filled with guilt and I need to know if I've done the right thing or if I should have just stayed out of it. My brother cheated on his long-term girlfriend with a close family friend of mine after a party we went to together. Once I found out, I knew my brother wouldn't own up and tell his girlfriend, and the friend definitely wouldn't. I made the decision to anonymously message his girlfriend to tell her. Turns out, instead of being angry at her boyfriend, she's mad at me for taking him to the party and not stopping it because the person he cheated with was a close friend. She still doesn't know it was me that sent the message. She's pretty much cut my and my kids off from my brother and his kid. We aren't allowed to hang out or message each other, all because she blames me for not stopping it and being friends with the other person. For context, on the night I had been drinking a lot and was having a good night. I didn't really pay attention to what my brother and friend were doing. I didn't realize until we woke up the next morning that they came out of the room together. I couldn't have stopped it even if I wanted to. Anyway, I really miss my brother and honestly regret even telling her. Did I do the right thing or should I just have stayed out of it? Well, you've already done it, so I don't think there's really any point in harping over should you have or shouldn't you have. It's not like you're asking for advice on whether or not you should do it, and you hadn't done it yet at the time. But with that being said, I do think that things like this need to be exposed. I'm a little surprised by the girlfriend's reaction there, though. Instead of blaming the person who actually cheated, you're blaming someone who had nothing to do with the circumstance on why they didn't stop it. Just weird, but no, I don't think that OP was out of line for exposing this affair. Gayboy Saxon 95 commented, in my opinion, you did the right thing. She may not see it right now, but sooner or later she'll thank you for telling her. Right now, she's mad and is looking for someone to blame and is probably trying to convince herself that he wouldn't do it again, but he will do it again, and she'll see that he would have cheated sooner or later, whether you took him to the party or not. Our next story is, I like this girl and now I can't get over her. It's making life unbearable. I've, 17-year-old male, liked this girl for far longer than I'm willing to admit. She's the most intelligent, it's actually incredible, she's sweet as pie, with a sense of humor as good as silver, and she's gorgeous. She's objectively the best. She's in a league that's hers alone, but what actually makes her special is the sense of bliss and hope her presence creates. In June 2024, my then best friend started talking to her, intimately. Just 2 weeks after he stopped begging his ex, who he'd been super manipulative and toxic to take him back. I trusted him when he insisted I was just being paranoid. Then, 2 weeks in, he became her first boyfriend. She had once hated him, but dismissed his past behavior as just alcohol and family problems. She believes he's the only one who understands her. He lied repeatedly, told her I liked her just before asking her out, and even lied that I had slapped him. I was humiliated. Looking back, he was always a sleazy friend. It's been 9 months since. I've become increasingly lonely as I've had to avoid most hangouts because, for the sakes of my mental stability, I cannot bear to be around my ex-friend. The rest of my friend group seems unbothered. Neutrality is king. I feel I've been unremorsefully abandoned by everyone close to me in favor of some weasel who solely acts in self-interest with no regard for morality or empathy. I feel so disposable. It feels purposeless and as if the world were mocking all which I believe in. It's killing me. Every breath is exhausting. Living like this makes life itself unbearable. The worst part is, it's all my fault. I hate myself for it. I had so much time to be the one to connect with her, or even to just admit my feelings, but I never did. I promise it wasn't a lack of will, but one of wit. I would have done anything, but I didn't know anything to do. I still don't really get the whole emotional connection thing. Maybe that's why I'm disposable. I don't know what to do with myself anymore. I'd appreciate any advice. Well, if the entire friend group seems unperturbed by your absence, it's probably time to find a new friend group. I know that's easier said than done, but I think going no contact, cutting those guys off, is probably your best move. And then as far as like not putting a move on the girl that you had a crush on, if there's any Kingdom Hearts fans out there that are listening, a quote by Axel comes into mind where he says, "If you have a dream, don't wait, act. One of life's little rules." Got it memorized? So yeah, don't succumb to paralysis by analysis. If you like someone, express at least that you have interest. You don't have to like go all the way in, but you've got to put that out there. Comprehensive Bet 1256 commented, "Find new friends, get hobbies. She may be the first girl you've liked this much, but she won't be the last." Mejock replied, "Yep, when I was OP's age, there was a girl who I was convinced was the one for me. Like head over heels, can't think of anything else, want to marry her. Over the next few years of young adulthood, I fell in love with a lot of girls and eventually met the one. Now, I can vaguely recall her as, oh yeah, that girl I had a crush on in high school. What you don't realize at that age is that you meet lots of other people in life, and at some point, the whole thing will seem like a very minor episode from long ago. Just one paragraph on one of the first pages of a hopefully very long book." Our next story is, "My best friend of 15 years nuked our friendship when she met her current husband." So this story is a little bit friendship drama and a little bit Bridezilla drama, but I've been reading Reddit stories for a long time and wanted to get my own off my chest. Sorry, this is so long. Some background first. My best friend of 15 years and I, both female in our 30s, met in college when we were randomly assigned to the same freshman dorm, and we had been inseparable since. I'm talking, this woman was my person. We did so much together. We were there for each other's huge milestones and had kept our friendship going strong for so long even after I moved out of the state several years ago. I always felt like our friendship was really balanced and that nobody was carrying more or less effort of the friendship than the other. I even helped her both plan over several months and execute her escape from her abusive ex-husband, and was one of only a couple people entrusted with this knowledge prior to her physically leaving. We were tight. My husband and I eloped in our state last summer, which we had been planning for 17 months prior to the event. Due to the events with my family, we decided to elope with literally only ourselves and our photographer. No family or friends to avoid drama. I had a bachelorette party with my friends a month prior to the wedding so they could still be involved. About 4 months prior to the wedding, my friend reached out to me and asked if she could come to the elopement. In her words, quote, "It makes me really sad to think of you getting ready for your wedding on your own." My now husband is a very shy man, but had gotten to know her really well over the years and is now friends and very comfortable with her, and was very on board with her joining us. Other than ourselves, she would literally be the only other person attending. To me, this was a really extraordinary display of friendship, as she would need to fly to come and it would cost her money, which didn't bother her, and I was so appreciative. Well, about 2 weeks after she offered to join us and we accepted, she started dating a new guy that she was really into. After her horrible experience with her first husband, they're now divorced, I was so excited for her that she met somebody as amazing as she was. Well, this is when the drama started. At first, she just asked if her new boyfriend could come up to the wedding with her. They had only been dating 2 weeks at this point. My husband and I talked about it, and he was super uncomfortable with having a stranger join in. I got back to my friend about it and said, no, it's nothing to do with him. We just don't want a stranger at our wedding last minute. We had plans to do girl stuff like get our nails done the day before the wedding, which would leave my husband to entertain a stranger. She came back with, well, he doesn't have to join in anything we do as a group, which felt really icky as we're people who wouldn't want somebody else to feel excluded the first time they fly up to meet us, especially when they're the partner of my best friend. It's not that we didn't ever want to meet the guy, just not last minute for our wedding. Her response? Well, you can't tell people they can't fly to your state. which is technically true, but just felt like an excuse for crossing a clearly stated boundary. Either way, this started the only fight we had ever had in 15 years of friendship. She felt like I just wanted her to be alone, in my state. Weird, because before she met the guy, she was fine with that, and that I was being unreasonable. She made plans and bought plane tickets for both of them, despite me communicating mine and my husband's feelings about the whole thing several times. During this time, she and her new boyfriend got engaged after less than 4 weeks of dating. I maintained my stance that we were not comfortable with having him come up to meet us at this time. She revealed that her and her now fiancé had made plans to elope 4 days after us in a different state, and were now going to fly there directly after our wedding was over. She wanted our nail appointment and stuff we were doing in the days leading up to the wedding to now be joint celebrations for their upcoming wedding too. Mind you, she did not consult me on how my husband and I felt about this prior to making her own plans, and was very upset that I didn't react the way she expected me to. Instead of being excited like she expected about being able to do stuff for both of our weddings at the same time, I was just shocked and frankly upset that she was hijacking our wedding now. If she had discussed this with me before just deciding, I think I would have reacted a little differently, but it just felt so disrespectful to make plans that affected my husband and I without involving us. I wrote her a long text explaining how disrespectful this felt, and asked her why she seemed willing to nuke our friendship of 15 years over a man who was nobody to anybody 6 weeks ago. At this point, there had been many conversations about her not listening, about having her man come up with her, and now about how weird it was that they were now getting married so close to our own wedding. My husband even asked at this point if we could move the wedding date or location to avoid the drama because he was so stressed out. This was his wedding too, so that broke my heart. I ended up telling her not to come at all and told her she was no longer welcome. We didn't end up speaking much for 2 months, and she canceled on my bachelorette party 4 days before it was supposed to happen. I never received an apology or acknowledgement of her behavior for any of it. My other absolutely incredible human of a best friend from elementary school ended up coming up for our wedding instead when she saw how stressed and upset I was about the whole situation. I'm eternally grateful for her. Fast forward about 3 months. Our wedding and honeymoon are over. My friend, the one who did indeed get married 4 days after us, reached out asking if I wanted to be the maid of honor in their wedding coming up in about a year. You see, their parents are not well physically and were unable to attend the elopement, so they're throwing a second, bigger wedding for their family in their home state. I asked explicitly if she was sure she wanted me to be maid of honor after everything that happened earlier that year. She said yes, she was sure. I accepted, despite some reservations, because I wanted her to have an amazing wedding and very much valued our friendship. While maid of honor, she kept expressing how overwhelmed she felt with everything, so I tried really hard to take things off her plate. I researched all the photographers in the area and made a spreadsheet with their pricing, contact info, availability, etc. I also did something similar with the area hotels within her price range. We're talking many hours of research, but I was happy to help out. During this time, I also coordinated with the other bridesmaids to order snacks, vegan I might add, for her wedding dress shopping experience, which I attended remotely directly after working a 12-hour night shift. I also had already planned and booked her bachelorette party. Everything seemed to be going smoothly. She seemed happy and had never indicated otherwise. Then came the "we need to talk" text. It was a normal Wednesday. We had just had a bridesmaid meeting over Teams 2 days before, and everything seemed fine. When we got on the phone, she informed me that she no longer wanted me to be the maid of honor. To say I was blindsided was an understatement. She told me one of the other bridesmaids had agreed to take up the title. I was obviously hurt, but she's the bride, so I just said, okay, if that's what you really want. She then said, but you can still come to the wedding if you want. I froze and then asked, so what you're really saying is that I'm no longer in the bridal party? She never explicitly stated that, just that somebody else was going to be maid of honor, and her response was only correct. She didn't even have the balls to tell me that I was booted from the bridal party entirely. I had to ask outright, from maid of honor to guest in one fell swoop. Her reasons, you ask? I felt out of sync with you for a while now. You were making me feel pressure to do things for the wedding before I was ready to do so. I asked her why she never said anything to me if the way I was helping wasn't what she wanted or needed. She just stated, I didn't think it would help. I then asked her why she didn't just demote me to regular bridesmaid if she didn't like the way I was doing things. I've done both maid of honor and bridesmaid before and know how to do both. In my experience, as a regular bridesmaid, I wouldn't be in charge of planning anything anymore unless the new maid of honor or bride asked me explicitly. Her answer was again, I didn't think it would help. This was the last straw. After everything that had happened with her over the last year, I was done. I wasn't going to continue setting myself up to be hurt by her anymore, and it was clear she didn't care about my opinions, thoughts, or feelings. I told her not to contact me ever again and blocked her on everything after that call. Needless to say, I'm not going to her wedding. None of my other friends seemed that surprised by any of the events above, so maybe she was acting like this before and I just couldn't see. Side note, remember how her first wedding was 4 days after our wedding? Well, her other wedding is going to be 3 days after my birthday. Even my husband, who's anti-drama, asked me if I thought this was intentional. Side note too, I'm friends with one of the other bridesmaids independently of her wedding, and apparently my friend had been telling everybody else that the only reason we had a fight around my wedding was because I didn't like that she was also getting married so close to our date, which shows she neither heard nor understood anything that I said to her regarding that situation. I truly hope that it's just a coincidence that she met her now husband and then started acting like a terrible person. This sounds premeditated, this sounds choreographed, rehearsed, it just doesn't make any sense, and I hate that she wasted your time and made you feel that way. Clearly some petty jealousy going on for whatever reason, which doesn't make sense because you're supposed to be best friends, but you probably should have had a conversation before accepting the maid of honor invite. Either way, that sucks. Fatty Bomber commented, she invited you to be maid of honor only so that she could uninvite you like this as a form of petty revenge. She never intended for you to be maid of honor or a bridesmaid. It's a shame it took her so long to show her true colors so that you didn't need to waste so much time on her. CloudTime 1991 replied, that's a depressing take. We hate a fake bee. Well, I guess the good timing is that hopefully the new maid of honor will have an easy time since I already did so much. Our next story is, I resent my parents too much to have kids. I've never really thought about kids. For me, having kids is not the goal, but rather the outcome. Like, I want to have kids with a loving partner whom I have a healthy relationship with. But how would I be in a healthy relationship if I don't even know how one looks like? My parents had a very toxic marriage, and my relationships with both of them are bad and getting worse. I don't respect either of them. They're both very hysteric and unstable. I cannot forgive them for how they used and continue to take everything out on me, specifically, since I'm the eldest child. I have major anger towards them. I've almost given up on the idea of meeting anyone, because I'm not even sure I'm capable of being a loving partner or interested in having children who might resent me as much as I resent my parents. It's a constant thought loop that I can't get out of, a loop of shame, anger, and hopelessness. I think in this situation, it's good to not have a plan, just close your eyes and trust that the serendipity of life will guide you to where you're meant to be, and then just go with it from there. DarkfireCat06 commented, this might be really stupid advice, but you should also watch Bluey. I know, watch a show for preschoolers? There's something about the show that helps heal your inner child to see a family of cartoon dogs live. Messages directed just to adults. It helps me lose some anger towards some of my family and help me understand that going low to no contact with them really was the best for me. That, along with therapy, helped. Our next story is, my mom can't hold a job and I'm not willing to finance her lifestyle. So I realize I sound like a jerk. I grew up in pretty bad poverty. My mom had a really hard time holding a job and when she was able to, had a spending problem. As a result, I've been working full-time since I was 15. I worked multiple jobs at a time to get around labor laws so that I could make and save money. By the time I graduated high school, I had enough money to buy a car in cash and pay for a majority of my college expenses. Cash flowed first 3 years, with absolutely no help. I continued to work through college and eventually ended up in a high-paying job. From the age of 17 to now, I've worked around 50 to 60 hours a week in addition to going to school. I had no free time. I missed out on a majority of being young. I never got to go to parties. I hardly ever hung out with friends, which caused me to lose a majority of them, and I was always exhausted while I should have been young and lively. Regardless, I went through the grind and came out on top. I now don't typically have to worry about money. I'm in a relationship with a fantastic man that I plan to marry and start a family with. Everything seems to have worked out. My mom has always had a very hard time working. She has problems with all her coworkers everywhere she goes, and she seems to struggle with taking direction. As a result, she tends to leave jobs quickly, usually without another job offer. She decided when I was around 19 to stop working to care for my elderly grandmother. While I understood this decision, there was still time she could have held a part-time job at least and chose not to. My grandmother was in an adult daycare program for about 20 to 30 hours a week, which could have been spent working. Instead, my mom chose to go out and spend what little money she had gotten from various loans and wherever else she was getting money from. She also complained constantly about having to take care of my grandmother. My grandmother passed away a year ago, and my mom was left with no choice but to go back to work, and again, the cycle starts over. Every day I hear constant complaining about how much she hates her job and everyone she works with. She makes very little effort to find other work and writes off entire industries for silly reasons. I won't work in food service because I won't wear a hairnet. I won't work in retail because I don't have any experience, etc. She's also not saving any money, not towards retirement, not towards an emergency reserve, nothing. She claims she doesn't have any money left after bills to save, but she frivolously spends. Every space in the house is occupied with something. She purchased a freezer full of steaks that have been sitting uncooked for months. She pays someone to wash her hair every few days because she doesn't feel like doing it herself. She has so many things she doesn't need, and every time I visit her, there's more, yet bills are being paid in increments because she can't afford to pay the full bill. I even cover some expenses by putting her on my plans, and yet she still cannot manage very basic expenses. Meanwhile, I work, I live very well below my means, and my partner and I save a lot of money, both for retirement and for our future together. I know my mother is planning on being able to live off of me, and I won't allow it. I don't know what she's going to do, and I know it sounds cold of me, but I work too hard to hand over anything to someone who's never tried to better themselves or their life. I'm done. Edit, just because I'm frustrated. I came to visit her today and discovered receipts for various retailers for the past couple weeks, strewn about, totaling over $700. She just complained to me about not being able to pay property taxes to stay in her home. It's just so bad, and I needed to vent more. I apologize. I mean, you've got to draw a line in the sand. I would say this if it was a mother talking about her child, but this is the tables have turned. You're talking about a child taking care of her mother, and it seems like she's able to and just doesn't. So yeah, you've got to, buck up and tell her off, Disenchanted2 commented, "Good for you. If she had proven to be hardworking and responsible, helping her occasionally would not bother you. She's lazy and makes stupid decisions. Don't enable her. I didn't come from a family with a lot of money, but both of my parents were hardworking people and instilled a good work ethic in all of us." Handsome Girly commented, "My mom is the only one in the family that has just never thrived, and I don't really know why. But she's been enabled her entire life, so I suppose maybe that's why." Our next story is, "My dad expects me to take care of my step-siblings. I said no. My mom and dad divorced when I was younger, and have since remarried. My brother and I are now old enough that both pairs have started to have the 'if something happened to us' conversations. My mom and her now husband don't have other kids. My dad's new wife has 3 kids of her own, and I think the two are planning to have a kid together. I'm the oldest of all of us. I try to be polite and friendly to my stepfamily, but I don't see them as my siblings. By the time Kara, stepmom, and my dad met, I was already an adult, moved out, and didn't live close to home. They're also more than 10 years younger than me. I try to be nice enough, but I just don't know them well. My step-siblings also have special needs that require a reasonably high amount of maintenance. Will be relevant later. Dad and Kara are both clear that if something were to happen to my step-siblings, they want me to take them in. I said no, I don't have the time or the energy. My job pays decently, but not enough to support 4 on a single income, and my place isn't big enough. All of this is also compounded by their special needs. I don't have the time or energy to meet those. My insurance isn't good enough to cover their care, even with good insurance. I probably couldn't afford their meds. It's not an option for me. Dad and Kara have said I'm ableist for refusing to take them in, because some of my concerns related to their needs. I want to make it clear my concerns were about my ability to support those. When it came to their needs I could support, I didn't bring them up. My step-siblings also have other people who are willing to help, including aunts and uncles who have volunteered to take them in if needed. They have somewhere to go. It's not like I'm putting them out on the streets, and again, I don't have the resources to support them. They did say that if I took them in, I would get the house, solving the place to live issue. However, I couldn't commute to my current job, and it's unlikely I could find one locally. Not an easy to find position where I'm from for geographic reasons. I might get the house, but I'd lose the ability to support myself. Maybe this would be worthwhile if I felt close to them, but they're virtual strangers to me, so I don't. Dad has said that if I refuse to take them in, I'd lose my inheritance. I've said that's fine. Put it in a trust fund for my step-siblings' care. I'm not rich, but I don't need the money. It'll help whichever family member does take them in. All of Kara's 4 siblings are willing to, so again, not turning them out on the streets. But I'm not taking them in. I don't have resources. I should also note, I'm a woman and my brother is a man. When we're home over the holidays, I'm always the one my dad expects to help around the house. My brother, Chris, never is. Chris also makes more money, has a more stable job, has enough space, and isn't thrilled about taking in my step-siblings, but is open. My dad has never put any pressure on him to care for them in any capacity. I'm older, but we're both in our mid-20s. We're very much adults. Chris would be a reasonable option, but is never brought up as one. Also, his concerns were similar. Resources, particularly related to the step-sibling's special needs. Surprise, surprise, he's never been called ableist. Dad has also never threatened Chris's inheritance. A lot of this is just misogyny that the women in a family are there to take care of the others. Well, OP, I have to applaud you for sticking to your guns and standing up for yourself, and even continuing to insist when they try to kind of blackmail you and say, well, you're going to lose your inheritance if you don't do this. Okay, fine. What else you got to throw at me and threaten me with? Love it. Love that you're thinking for yourself and also kind of on the side thinking of your step-siblings as well. It's like, I can't take care of them right now at this point in my life. Very responsible, very mature. I like that. Disastrous Panda 5530 commented, they're blood relatives and you have virtually no relationship with them. Who in their right mind who wants to take in strangers to take care of them? Special needs or not. And it's messed up that your dad expects this from you and not your brother. Have you pointed this out to him? How he's trying to put this on you? You have no obligation, and it sounds like your dad favors your brother and doesn't want to inconvenience him, but also doesn't care if he does to you. I wouldn't even care if I was called ableist for not wanting to agree with this. And I say that as a mother with a son with autism, level 2, who may not be able to live independently. I do have a daughter a few years younger, but I would never ask or expect this of her, and that's her actual brother she's grown up with. I've been planning on other arrangements instead. Our next story is, shall I tell my brother that his best friend tried it on with me? I'm not upset and actually think it's kind of hilarious because the kid, we'll call him Jay, is 16. My brother and his friends are a fair bit younger than me. I came in a little tipsy from an evening out and saw my brother had some friends around, so I gathered some snacks from the kitchen and scampered right on upstairs. I heard Jay tell them that he was going upstairs to brush his teeth. Liar. And then he came into my room and started asking if I had seen this TikTok video. He sat down next to me on the bed and we watched a couple and laughed. I know him quite well from over the years and didn't feel threatened by this. However, this is when he moves in for the kiss and slides his hand up my thigh. I obviously pull back, slap his hand away, and ask what he's doing. He says, "What does it look like I'm doing?" and goes for it again. I laugh uncomfortably again and remind him of our age difference. He looks me straight in the face and says, "Just because you're 6 years older than me doesn't mean I wouldn't bang you." Of course, I told him to get the F out, and luckily he did. Do I tell my brother about this? Because I actually think it's kind of funny, but I know guys get weird about this kind of stuff, protective, etc., and I don't want to start a fight between them. Yeah, you need to tell your brother, not necessarily for your own sake, because you're obviously older and can take care of yourself, but if he's willing to do this to you, he's going to treat other girls like this as well, which is very creepy, unacceptable behavior out of a young man. So yeah, you need to kind of expose this a little bit. Our next story is, my mom asked me to give her back my birthday gift and I'm kind of disappointed. Hi, just pretty much the title. I'm 30, so I'm not a kid anymore, so I shouldn't care, but I kind of do. Today I'm turning 30, so it might play a little bit on that too. My friends all hit their 30s with a party and stuff, but for one reason or another, I never really celebrated my birthdays. Early this morning, my mom gave me some money that she pooled with my brother for my birthday, and I was excited, thinking about using it to get my lashes done or something. It wasn't much, I'm not from the US, but around $30. And a few minutes ago, she asked me if I could give her back the money to pay for a cake. Thing is, I had told her I could bake my own cake, but she insisted on getting it from a friend who makes very nice personalized cakes. But if I had known I would have had to pay for it, I'd have done it myself. She's a great mom, but can be very bad with money, so I get it. It's all very stupid, but I still feel childishly disappointed about it. It doesn't really matter, cause I'll get paid in a couple days and I can get my lashes done and buy myself whatever, but I guess I needed to get it off my chest. Look, there's nothing wrong with feeling the way that you do. It would be better if she had just used that money to buy a cake in the first place instead of giving you the money, so then instinctively you're going to start making plans for that money, and then she asks for it back. I do think you should give it back just because it was a gift, but I don't blame you in the slightest bit for feeling some kind of way about that. Glossal Alien commented, so her gift was letting you look at money for a few minutes? That's just incredibly sad, and you have every right to be disappointed. You're not even disappointed about a gift, you're disappointed at your mother's completely inconsiderate behavior. Geez, even a handmade card that says I love you was more than she could be bothered to come up with? And she didn't just take back the money she gave you, she essentially stole the money your brother was saving for your birthday to buy a cake she wanted. I'm so sorry, my friend, that's incredibly sad. Please accept a happy 30th birthday from me and my sympathy and hugs for the crappy way your mom handled it. Lalambi95 replied, yeah, I guess she really could have handled it better. I believe that maybe it has to do with the way I've never really celebrated my birthdays, that she thought it wouldn't be a big deal. But still, thanks so much for the birthday wishes. I really appreciate it. Our next story is, my wife had an affair when my mom died and blames me for the relationship breakdown. Hi all. I, 30-year-old male, started posting some of these incidents and am I the jerk, but it soon became clear that in some of these cases, she very clearly is the jerk and there's no point in even asking. So I've come here just to add all the effed up things that have happened to me in the final months of 2024. I anticipate this will be very long. Have fun. So, for some context. In late 2023, my wife and I bought a house, and I was spending a lot of time for a couple of months working on the house almost every evening and weekend I could spare. During this time, my wife started going out with some new friends, including this guy, Jay. Randomly, one evening, she looks a bit funny and says to me, I don't trust myself around him. I hear this, my heart sinks a bit, but I feel like we have a strong relationship, and I tell her, I trust you to not do anything stupid, just be sensible about what time and how you spend time with him. She liked this and we moved on, but I decided to keep an eye on the situation. She started spending more and more time with him and these new friends, going out and getting drunk while I was working late on the house. It was starting to make me uncomfortable and eventually I said so. I didn't ask for anything, just expressed my feelings. She said she understood, but they're just friends and there's nothing to be worried about. They keep hanging out until one day, his partner, a woman married to another man, forbade him from speaking to my wife because she was jealous. So he ghosted my wife and she got really upset. It hurt me to see how upset she was for two reasons. My wife is upset, that's upsetting. She's so upset it feels weird and she's acting like a breakup. She asked me to proofread a message she wanted to send and I read it a bit and had to put it down. I said, this is a breakup message. I refuse to do this. She remained adamant that they were just friends and nothing more. I accused her of having an emotional affair. Again, she denied it and was adamant they were just friends and that I needed to get over this. Some weeks later, Jay comes back on the scene having broken up with his previous girlfriend. My wife says she's going to talk to him, but be very boundaried. I tell her that I'm uncomfortable with all of this. If she's going to see him, she should be careful. A week or two later, she comes stumbling in at 5 a.m. I ask where she's been, and she explains that she's been out with Jay. Went back to his place at around 2 a.m. and they played guitar. I was hurt and upset. This was the antithesis of everything we had discussed. I said, you can't do that, to which my wife took great offense, accusing me of controlling her and being misogynistic. To be clear, I never forbade her from seeing him. I never tried to tell her what to do beyond please be careful and don't do anything silly and please respect me. That time I said, you can't do that, was the first and only time I specifically said what she could and couldn't do. And to me, it's obvious I wasn't controlling her, I was just not saying the quiet part out loud, which is, you can't do this unless you want to ruin our relationship. She's adamant nothing happened, and weirdly I believe her. The issue for me is that she did the opposite of what we both agreed. She disrespected me and my feelings, and she's putting our relationship in jeopardy. To her, the issue is that I tried to control her by being upset and that I'm putting restrictions on her. She pointed out she's a grown but woman and she can spend time with her friends if she wants to. My being upset about it is a mode of control and I need to stop. In principle, I have no problem with her seeing her friends, but this guy makes me uncomfortable. So that all happened, we were on the rocks, she's clearly having an emotional affair at the very least, but adamantly refuses to acknowledge it. I'm trying desperately to find a way to move forward and recover our relationship if we can. Then, October 2024. My mom died suddenly. I won't go into too much, but it happened. Very sudden, shocking, it sucks. My dad died when I was young, so a lonely time as well. This is where my wife's behavior started to seriously turn. I'm going to list the major events as I remember them in the order they happened. I'll also try to list areas where I was less than perfect, but to be perfectly honest, I don't think there are many. Like, really, I have to keep checking myself. Surely it wasn't all so one-sided. Surely I contributed meaningfully to this. Just doesn't seem to be the case. Anyway, here goes. The day after my mom died, we're at the pub with a friend. We're talking about it all. My friend asks my wife how she's doing, and she says, "I'm worried everyone is going to forget that my mom died." For context, her mom passed away 3 to 4 years ago from a long contracted period of illness. It spanned over COVID and lockdown. I lived in their house with them over all of lockdown and helped look after her mom, watching her die and taking care of her for over a year. My wife had been dealing with this tragic and difficult loss for some time, so I had some sympathy to her reaction. But bottom line, it's a crappy thing to say to your partner who lost their mom 1 day ago, that you're concerned you're not going to get as much attention anymore, that my loss will overshadow hers. It speaks volumes and sets up what is to come. A day later, she says she's going to go and see this Jay guy I mentioned above, the one I'm really uncomfortable with. I made it very clear that I'm uncomfortable with this, and now is not the time to be testing me like this. I know he's just your friend and there's nothing actually happening, I'm an idiot, but this does upset me and I don't need to deal with this right now. I'd appreciate it if she didn't go. She said she understood, but not to worry. This is the last time she's going to see him, really. Their relationship has petered out, more or less, so it will just be the occasional coffee, which is all she's going for. Oh, and they had plans to go see a jazz band in a few weeks, but she'll cancel that on account of the funeral. She's barely going to see him, so don't worry. I said it was fine. I saw it as, if she's being truthful, then I can accept the cost of one more uncomfortable period if the payoff is they really do just leave each other alone for a while. She went and came back a couple hours later. No big deal. So the following week, we had a spa trip booked. I bought it for her for Christmas. We decided to still go in spite of everything because why not? I need it. It was great. Had a lovely time, reconnected. I was able to relax and de-stress a bit. But on the last day, we're in a hot tub together sharing a cocktail and she's on her phone. She's messaging Jay and arranging to meet the next day. I took offense and said, "I thought you weren't seeing each other anymore. It's just a study. I'm falling behind on my thesis." So the next day she gets up early and leaves. We agree she'll be back at lunch. I'm very unhappy about all of this and just basically sulk all morning. I leave my phone upstairs and try to get on with my day as best I can, waiting for her to come home and talk about it. 3 p.m. comes and goes. I take a nap. 5 p.m. comes and goes. I check my phone, a couple messages and a couple missed calls. Apparently, she decided to stay out for lunch and asked if it was okay. When I didn't reply, she decided to stay out for dinner and drinks too. She didn't get home until after I went to bed. I spent the whole evening feeling miserable and hurt. I don't need this. She comes home and I confront her asking if she thought any of that was okay. Turns out it's all my fault because I didn't reply to her and my lack of immediate response was me emotionally blackmailing her to come home. It really wasn't. I just didn't want to have my phone on me and was expecting her to be home at the agreed time. Maybe a little silly and selfish on my part. Maybe, but I'm grieving and she's already pushed my boundaries. I needed some alone time to deal with it. I had no idea I was emotionally blackmailing her. So anyway, she stays out all day with the person that makes me uncomfortable, days after my mom died, days after she promised she wouldn't, and I'm the jerk for not keeping my phone on me in case she decided to change her mind. Great. A week goes by and it's the day before we're due to leave for my hometown, ready for the funeral in a few days. She asks me if we can hold off on going for one extra day so she can go to this jazz thing with Jay. I say, "What? You said that wasn't happening. That's why you saw him earlier, because you weren't doing this." She says she knows, but she really wants to go. I confront her and say, "I really don't feel like I'm your top priority." "No, you're not my top priority." "Please elaborate." "Well, I just don't see it as a hierarchy. Everyone's in a circle around me and you're all equal priority. You, Jay, etc. "Right, but I'm your husband and my mom just died. Does that not put me ahead of anyone else?" "No." Looking dead in my eyes. "No." "Fine, go to your jazz thing. I don't give a F." She says, might as well, the damage is already done by me even asking, right? Yeah, the damage is already done. I can't believe what she said to me. So cold, so heartless, so unempathetic, so selfish. By the way, this woman is a qualified therapist. Let that sink in. Hope you don't get her as your therapist. Good lord. So she freaks off the next day, and I delay my departure for her social plans. I contemplated going down without her, but the ensuing drama and questions from family would not be worth it. It was my mom's funeral after all, not my marriage's. The funeral goes fine. The week is fine. She doesn't say or do anything crappy. I focus on the funeral and family and everything and mostly not think about the fireball train wreck that's now my marriage. On the drive home, my wife decides to tell me that she thinks her ex-boyfriend from school days is the one that got away. I'm dumbfounded because what a thing to freaking say as I drive us home from burying my mother. That's just patently untrue. So completely ludicrous that I'm not even bothered by the notion that she might be serious. It is at this point that it dawns on me that she may be hurting me on purpose. The next day we're having coffee and she says to me, I never wanted this house, I never wanted a dog, and I don't want kids. Let's be clear, I did not push her to get the house or the dog. If anything, she pushed for both of them, but it was pretty mutual. She's now tearing up the entire foundation of our marriage. She's lighting fire to the entire future plans we had. The house and dog that I poured my heart and soul into for her, for us. She never wanted, apparently. Just brutal, savage. She acted shocked when I started crying. I didn't expect it to upset you this much. Incredible. The next day, I go to my friend's place and just cry on her for hours. I'm in a complete state. It's all too much, overwhelming, awful, and just confusing. Why is she being so mean? I wondered if she hated me. Then I thought, maybe she's trying to get me to break up with her. She's clearly having an affair of some variety. My mom just died. Maybe she just doesn't want the person to break up with their partner when their mom died. Especially a partner who cared for her dying mother. And especially because she was having an affair. She'd be seen as such a jerk. So rather than just admitting everything and being a jerk, she decided to torture me until I pulled the plug myself. Not her fault then, is it? Anyway, that thought occurred to me, but I'm in no state to decide the fate of my marriage. I'm grieving, I'm distraught, I'm reeling from the various harrowing incidents listed above. Barely enough time to process one before another comes along. It may seem obvious to you and me now, but at the time, I just couldn't see clearly what was happening or exactly why. My friend gave me some advice that I didn't need to decide anything right now. That settled me. Took some pressure off. At around this point, my perception of time gets a bit funny. Mixture of grief and brain freakery. So now I'm ticked at her. I don't trust her. I feel badly hurt. She says she's going out with Jay again. I say I don't care. Resigned to this crappy behavior, unable to reason with her, unable to discuss it, unable to make the call and leave. She comes back at 4 a.m, high as F. They had taken MDMA together, the oxycodone drug. Under the influence of this drug, he confessed his feelings for her. She was totally shocked by this and said it was all a little uncomfortable. Okay, I said, whatever. The next day we're driving somewhere and I really can't remember what she said, but it just set me off. I think it was something along the lines of, I don't know why you're so upset with me. I was furious. I was worn down. I was mistreated. For the first time, I raised my voice. I was shouting at her, listing all of these crappy instances that were cutting me up whilst I grieved. I raised my hand, clenched my fist, and brought it down on the steering wheel in anger. It made a dull bang noise. This was the start of a new narrative for my wife. The scary, aggressive husband narrative. The perfect excuse, in her eyes, to leave me without raising questions about her betrayal and complete lack of empathy. You're scary, she said. I was cowering in the passenger seat, she said. You're just like my aggressive father, she said. I tried defending myself, but please remember I was in a complete mess mentally and emotionally. I started to believe her. Maybe I did lose control. Maybe I am one of those guys. Maybe I threatened her. I thought that, yes, it was an outburst, but no, it wasn't threatening. I'm not a big scary person. I'm just a human being that has been deeply hurt and wounded when they're at their most vulnerable. But maybe that's not a good enough excuse. Maybe I crossed a line. She sowed the seeds of doubt in my vulnerable mind. I started doubting my memory of events. Did I black out for a moment and do something really scary? She told me that I was potentially abusive. To be clear, she's not accusing me of being abusive. She's accusing me of maybe becoming abusive in the future, and she can't take that risk. I'm not safe to have children with. You know, the children she said she didn't want to have before I ever shouted. I believed her. What a monster I was. How could I be so terrible? I never thought I was like this. No wonder she was having an affair for the last several weeks. I shouted at her and hit my hand on the steering wheel in frustration. She leant into it, but not too far. She was manipulating me, telling me it's okay. You just need to go to therapy and sort yourself out. As long as I'm going along with her narrative, she's all okay on my side. If I ever doubt her, I'm terrible and hurtful and potentially abusive. She decided it was time to end things. She had the get-out-of-jail-free card she wanted. She didn't leave me for another man and emotionally abused me when my mom died. She saved herself from a potentially abusive relationship. My greatest crime was hitting a steering wheel. One of the last things she said to me, she spoke with a friend of hers who had broken up with her partner of 8 years, had 2 wild years, then they got back together for several years. I asked what she meant by wild years, just connecting with lots of people. So she turns to me and says, I think we're a lot like them, you know? I wanted to say, I bet she didn't abuse her partner. I bet she didn't hurt him when his mom died. I bet she didn't manipulate him into believing he was abusive. And the sheer audacity of sitting there and looking to me to approve of her freaking a bunch of people for 2 years before I take her back. I said nothing. She nudged me, desperate for me to implicitly condone her actions and behaviors by giving even the slightest inkling that I might take her back when she's done freaking around. I turned away and left. I was done. Not 2 days after our official breakup, she declared herself in a relationship with Jay. But to her family, she accused me of being aggressive and scary and forcing her to leave. She denies having had an affair, pretending that her and Jay are not an item. She goes to my friends and asks them to meet her new partner, Jay. Again, implicitly asking them to condone her actions by meeting this Jay guy. My friends all refuse and begin to cut contact with her. They've seen what she's done. They knew what she was doing to me before I did. They won't tolerate her BS. I love my friends. My wife's sister knows everything. She heard it all from my wife's point of view, and still she took my side. Then she heard what I had to say. Boy, was she ticked. She told her whole family the truth. My wife tried to convince them that her sister was a liar, that she didn't understand. She's pregnant, by the way. My wife just tried to turn her family against her pregnant younger sister. In her attempts to not be seen as a terrible, heartless female dog that would abandon her husband when he needed her most, she turned herself into an even worse monster, an abuser according to some. A liar, a manipulator, a nasty piece of work. Sometimes you meet your destiny on the path to avoid it. I'm 2 months free. I don't want to let another human being close to me like that again, but maybe that will change with time. My therapist and my wife's sister, who's also a qualified therapist, both said that she has been emotionally abusive to me. Coercive, controlling behavior. I don't know about that, but I know I've been treated unfairly. Thanks for reading this far. I hope it was entertaining. Well, I wouldn't call it entertaining. I don't think anyone should be getting joy out of hearing that someone's going through this kind of stuff. The only thing that I will say is that she kind of raised the red flag of an emotional affair when she confessed to you, I don't think I can trust myself being around him. And at that point, that's kind of your cue to shut it down. And if she insists on still hanging out, it's like, okay, then you know there's something more underlying there. But love makes you blind to the truth. You give people you love the benefit of the doubt when perhaps they don't deserve it. And that's clearly what happened here. From a reader, a listener outside looking in, it's obvious what was going on, but we weren't there in the moment with you, knowing what you felt, whatever connection you had built. And so really sorry, but glad that now you're finally out of that relationship and you can start moving forward with your life. New Judger commented, cheating is a choice. She's gaslighting and manipulating you. Square EM 2070 responded, yes, that's completely correct. It's so obvious to me now, but I was being manipulated at a time when I was extremely vulnerable. It's scary what can happen to you and how quickly it can escalate in a dangerous way. Thanks for reading my tale of woe. Our next story is, my girlfriend's daughter has me reevaluating the relationship. I'm expecting judgment on this, but I don't really have anyone in my day-to-day to talk to about this with, so here we go. I, 23-year-old male, have been with my girlfriend, 33-year-old female, for about 3.5 years now. We met as students, her having gone back to college, and have lived together for about 2.5 years now. We also live with my girlfriend's daughter, who we'll call B, 14-year-old female. Now, for a bit of backstory, I'm still a student at the moment, and the house we live in is my girlfriend's. She does a lot of the heavy lifting financially at the moment, while I finish up school. She's a bit domineering in general, which I'm okay with, as I'm a bit more passive and unassertive, and I've always had a good relationship with B. Lately, however, something has begun to shift with B and I. It started with how she began to speak with me. Hey, I need you to take less time in the shower from now on, or I need a sandwich made for 6 instead of 6:30. I'm getting hungry earlier than you. Little things, but put in a demanding way. I dismissed it as teenage stuff. Then it escalated. She started demanding things of me and laughing about it, as if mocking me, making me clean her room, give her my little bit of money, that sort of thing. Again, I bit my tongue, not wanting to cause trouble or anything. Finally, I had to speak with my girlfriend about her behavior when she started to freely wear her undergarments and nothing else around the house. I calmly told her I'd rather she not do that. She laughs in my face. To me, this crossed a bit of a boundary, especially with how she's been so domineering lately. And no, I'm not a pedo. That's not why it made me uncomfortable. I believe she's gotten too comfortable just in general, and this was a reflection of that. This was the final straw to me. My girlfriend's response was to laugh and her house, her rules. I don't feel like I'm being unreasonable, but maybe I am. I just feel like my relationship is doomed, and if I'm being treated like a second-class citizen in what's supposed to be my home as well. Sorry for the rant, just don't know where else to turn. Easier said than done, but I think these are the signs that you need to just go ahead and dump it and get out of there. If she's not receptive to what you have to say, then just don't say anymore and be on your way. Big Shower 7561 replied, "There's a reason people warn about age gaps. You're not even 10 years older than her daughter. Sorry, but you'll never be a father figure to her. You'll likely never be an authority in her life, and the 33-year-old knows that. Maybe if the genders were reversed, more people would have warned you, but as someone who has been both 23 and 33, when I got to 33, 23-year-olds look like kids. You're literally closer in age to her daughter than you are to your girlfriend. It would be one thing if you were 30 and solidly an adult, out of school, financially secure, and she was 40, solidly an adult, out of school, etc. Remember, our brains don't stop fully developing until about the age of 25. You've done nothing wrong, but she has. She should know better, and she's taking advantage of the power she holds over you in the relationship. I would leave personally, but if you really want to fight for it, that's your choice. Realistically, you'll be in for an uphill battle, and it will be rough during that kid's teen years. Really rough, especially if your girlfriend isn't backing you up. Our next story is, I started washing and putting away my roommate's favorite mug whenever she uses it. When she caught me, I lied about why. I, 30-year-old male, share an apartment with my friend, 30-year-old female. I'll call her Gwen. Gwen has a lot of mugs, more than will fit in the cup cupboard all at once, so she rotates them seasonally. She loves swapping them out. I asked why, and she says it's like getting new mugs every couple of months. But there are 2 mugs in her collection that never leave the kitchen. They're rarely in the cupboard because the second they're washed, she uses them again. We have a dishwasher, but it's broken. Part of our chore division is that we each take care of our own dishes. The thing is, I know she doesn't like doing her dishes. It's a sensory thing, but she insisted that we do our own dishes, and I thought that was pretty fair. I also know that Gwen's most favorite mug is her Spider-Man mug. She's never told me that, I can just tell because the Spider-Man mug gets picked before any of the others when it's clean. I know this because I see it in the sink every day for her to wash before bed with her other dishes from the day. There were times that her dishes sat for a couple days before she could force herself to work through the sensory issues and get them done. It never got to the point of smelling bad, and she apologized every time for any dishes she left overnight. I truly did not mind when that happened. I understand the sensory issues, and I'm proud of her for keeping on top of it as much as she was. Now comes the part I need to get off my chest. The background info was important, I promise. Every time Gwen realizes she can use her Spider-Man mug, she dances an adorable happy dance while making her tea in the morning. She doesn't seem to realize she's dancing, or doesn't realize I notice her dancing. Either way, it's my favorite part of the day when I'm getting ready for work and she dances a very happy dance while getting her breakfast because she gets to use her Spider-Man mug every single morning. It seriously cheers her up, and she's been a lot more positive throughout the day since I started doing this. Gwen found me washing her dishes last week. I had been doing them for a while, but this was the first time she walked in and caught me bubble-handed washing her Spider-Man mug. Not gonna lie, I panicked. She thanked me for helping her and then asked why I started to do her dishes too. She even asked if I was annoyed by her dishes when she left them. This was absolutely not the case, but I couldn't tell her I watch her happy dances. That's creepy, right? But it's so cute and makes me so happy to see her so happy. If she knew I watched her dance, she would feel self-conscious and stop doing them. She's pretty shy about stuff like that. She won't sing in front of anyone, but singing is one of her favorite things to do, and I've caught her singing along to her music before she realizes I'm home more than she realizes. I also pretend not to notice when that happens. She has a really pretty voice, so yeah. I couldn't tell her why I'm really doing her dishes, or I would lose my favorite part of my day. I told her I like to get mine done every night. It's something my mom always told me to do. I was already there, so it wasn't a big deal to do hers too. It saves water, and she does a few of the household chores that I hate because she likes them. So I don't mind doing this one tiny extra chore that she doesn't like. I feel like I was pretty obviously not telling the truth, but I think she believed me. She didn't tell me to stop, and she hasn't brought it up since she caught me, so I still get to see her happy dances when she goes in the kitchen and sees her Spider-Man mug ready for her to start the day. I mean, this is adorable, a little white lie that is well-intended, you just want to see her happy, it makes you happy, positivity feeding positivity. Love this story, you shouldn't feel bad about that one tiny bit. Alright everybody, that's all the time we have for today. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like and comment down below. And if you want to check out any of our other videos, click the video on the right. With that being said, I will see you all next time.